Good morning, everyone. Good morning to this Tech Talk. Welcome and welcome to Myers for joining me.
Thank you, Carsten. Good morning.
Nice to be here. So, welcome everybody to this Tech Talk. Today we are going to talk about Nebula 13, our January release, as well as new features and how to integrate our mobile routers into the Nebula cloud. So, Tobias, are you ready to start?
Yes, let's go.
Let's have a look into the agenda then. And today we talk first thing about the Connect and Protect licenses. Then we talk about MSP enhancements. There's a lot to discuss. SecuReporter licensing, a bit easier and more straightforward. Wi-Fi enhancement, and then a bunch of information about the USB Flex and the mobile router integration, as said, into Nebula. For everybody joining, just to mention again, if there is any question, please use the question window at the lower right of your screen. There, it should be possible to see that. And before we start, I would like to highlight again our value-added services. There you can find the possibility that we do the configuration for you, and you look over the shoulder, you would say, and then you can learn how we are doing it and then do the configuration afterwards. So it should be just encouraging you to experience new things. So don't be shy, just use the services and we do the configuration together with you. To find the services, you go to support.zyxel.eu and then Campus Services. Right, our portals, again, to mention, we always have customers that are just new to this, and you can find your partner portal at partner.zyxel.eu. There you have possibilities to see latest promotions and other information. We have the support portal as a kind of center of the discussion here. It's support.zyxel.eu. And to learn about our courses, free and paid training sessions, it's academy.zyxel.eu. So I invite you to join there, and you only need one username and password for all these platforms. And before we start, just a hint again, YouTube, social media in general, we are posting and sharing lots of information on social media. So try to look for it, Zyxel Support Campus, and then you will find a lot of videos that we are creating. Having said that, I would like to hand over to Tobias directly to jump into the topic.
All right. So we are starting with the first topic, which is the CNP and CNP Plus licenses. So we have released two new license models for our access point services. And CNP is talking about IP reputation, so a tool which could block malicious content for your clients. And the second one is application visibility and optimization. So this tool can help you to detect different applications like Facebook, Instagram, categorize this into a main category like social media, and then you can limit your bandwidth on these applications. So the licenses are as follow. The CNP license is available for 3 models, and the CNP Plus license include both tools is available for the AX model series. And from here, we cannot cross-assign these licenses. That means if you decide for a CNP license, you need to select one of the 3 mentioned models. And if you go for a CNP Plus license, you need to assign this to an AX model. It's not possible to assign a CNP Plus license, for example, to WAC 500. This wouldn't work, and we cannot support this scenario. What we can support is that only dedicated APs need CNP or CNP Plus license and not the whole organization. So that means if you have an AX access point with an CNP Plus license, you can use both features. If you have just an AX access point without any license, both features could not work even if they are enabled. And if you have a WAC 500 with CNP license, only the IP reputation would work.
So it's quite easy to mix. It's quite easy to have an area, for example, where you want to have the security check in addition, and another area like backstage or whatever, there you don't have it.
Exactly.
It's quite flexible then.
True. And right now we are running a promotion campaign for this license services. So if you are interested, you can easily get a 1 month trial from Nebula until April 10. And how to get this license is pretty simple. You are just going to your inventory page. You select the model which could support one of these 2 features, and then you can click claim the license. And in this moment, the license will automatically assign to your instance, and the features will be activated, and you can test it, configure it, check out the monitor section, which network traffic is detected, and all of these kind of things. And how application visibility works, I just mentioned it previously quite short, that it categorizes the client traffic coming to access point, check it together with our application database, and if the categorization is done, you can limit the bandwidth. And related to the IP reputation, you can block malicious websites that the client simply could not reach this website, and protect your network with a service running on an access point instead of a firewall. For example, if this network not have a firewall or is designed different.
Before we go into the next topic, Tobias, I'm checking here a bit. We go into the MSP enhancement. There are a lot of enhancements going out. So what is it that is driving new requirements, new features that we are implementing?
Yeah, we are implementing all kind of feature requests we receive from our customer through tickets, through support investigation, or from surveys. So we are proactively always collecting it, or when getting this during a support debug session, and then we inform our development teams to go into this direction.
And I think even if you are not sure how to write a feature request, you can go to the support.zyxel.eu, and there you find the possibilities and competence how to address your feature request to us. Having said that, let's jump into the MSP features.
Yes, so the next point is MSP category. We enhance the MSP package with a lot of features to make it more attractive and also to give you the needed feature requests. So the first feature is that MSP license keys could now be transferred between organizations. So to do that, you go to the Nebula page in My Devices and Services and choose the MSP license key, select the destination organization, and then such key could be transferred. The next feature is the change log. So in the log part, if the license is enabled, you could see every feature an admin is changed, or a group is updated, an email is removed, an email is added. We will be able to display this for every other team member. So always they know what another admin, what another team was handled and doing and updating. And the next feature is related to the portal enhancements. If you have a lot of organizations in your instance, it was a bit not good overview in NCC 12. And now we split this between organization and sites. So you see much easier now which sites are currently offline, where an MSP admin need to look into. You can hovering over the hyperlinks and get a more detailed table of the offline devices, navigate then to the offline devices and checking what's ongoing here, how can I fix it, all these helpful tasks MSP could now support. The next is if your organization is once created and all your MSP teams working and established, and you're creating a new organization, then the organization wizard allow you now to add this org directly to the MSP teams. So this makes it much easier that directly the org is part of your existing setup instead of adding all the admins afterwards to this organization. And quite big feature we are just releasing is the MSP site clone device transfer. So a lot of people asked us, how can I get a site from one organization to another organization? And MSP allows this feature now with some cloning. So previously we have a 9-step concept here where a customer first need to go through organization A, copy all the content to organization B, using pro license, using configuration templates. So this took a lot of time, manual work, and also license need. And now in MSP pack, we are reducing this to 4 steps. So an MSP admin is just creating organization B and executes the site clone, and the site could easily move to organization B with 4 steps and even without a pro license. So only the MSP pack is needed for this kind of action. How this looks is quite easy. You're selecting the source organization, and if you want to move one site or all sites, you can select if you want to keep the interface settings for the uplink, and you select the destination organization, and then the site will be cloned in the backend with all information. That means devices will change the MyZyxel account, the license keys will be transferred, the configuration will be transferred. The only limitation we have is that the event logs will not migrate and start collecting from scratch after the transfer, but all other settings we can keep. The devices will reboot once. So during the unregister, re-register process, we have this reboot in time, but that's all. Otherwise, you have a simple convert process.
Great. I think it's a great improvement that you don't need to with this enhancement that you can configure them, and this is really good. So now we're talking about the SecuReporter, and we're talking about a bit of a license changing there. And I would like to highlight to everyone, if you have questions to the SecuReporter, you can always look into earlier tech talks. We have done a tech talk around the SecuReporter earlier. If you have questions to features and how to configure certain things, you can go there. Otherwise, let's jump into the topic and look into the improved license situation.
Yeah, so we changed because of some needs for some customer, which only set up a Nebula for hospitality, for example. They need to log based on GDPR the gateway traffic logs. And previously, they need a pro license for the log feature itself, and they need a security service license to move the gateway traffic logs to SecuReporter. This has now changed that a pro license is enough to log this to SecuReporter. So there is no additional need of a security license anymore if it's only related to traffic logs. If they also want to see security alerts and security analytics, then the security package is completely needed for SecuReporter. If we just talk about the traffic logs, then it's not needed. And the customer have different ways to do that. So one is we have a syslog server by your own and simply use a base pack to send the logs to the traffic to the syslog server. But in case of you want to use SecuReporter and get the files in PDF format and easy downloadable and automatic sent by email, then you now need only the Pro Pack or Security Pack. And if you not have a gateway device, no firewall in place, then you can use also AP traffic log with a Pro license, which is generating this kind of logs on the access point and also sending to your email address, for example. In SecuReporter, you can find a new column called traffic after February 7. And you can already download all logs in SecuReporter, which will include the log for the traffic gateway.
Perfect. So that's about the SecuReporter. Thanks for that, Tobias. And I know that we will talk about now the Wi-Fi services and enhanced features. There's a lot to come. What's your favorite feature?
Yeah, my favorite feature is one of the first coming now. It's Airtime fairness, because it brings so much benefit into a network. and makes an existing Wi-Fi, which is may not working perfectly good, to a better stage.
Okay.
With just one click. Yeah.
Right.
So this is
so let's jump into that.
Yeah. So we're starting with the small business access points. We're releasing 3 new model: NWA 50AX, NWA 55AXE, and NWA 90AX. And these access points we call small business because they could not support every feature the higher access point models have, but they have some good features for hospitality, for example. They could support all cloud out methods. They could support WP2.3 enterprise. So if you are looking for a smaller access point with some additional feature set, you can go for these 3 new devices. If you're looking for some high-level features like DPPSK, then you should select a higher access point after NWA 110AX. Let's move to the airtime fairness feature I just mentioned. So this is a feature which is able to analyze the complete access point traffic and prioritize this traffic based on the clients. That means if you have a client connected to an access point which has a low bandwidth, which have an old Wi-Fi standard like 802.11g or N, this client usually delays the overall packets on an access point, which he needs to handle at the moment. And airtime fairness, if you enable this, can help to allocate this kind of traffic to all devices, which speed up the slow devices and overall speed up the access point performance and throughput. Which means if you have a smartphone connected in a conference room, which is currently just in idle or not doing any traffic, it usually already blocks the access point by still keeping association. But airtime fairness will ignore this till real traffic comes on and then gives this client back priority. And this works all complete automatically after enable it. And during our test cases, we found out that in a conference room with 90 clients, previously HD streaming was not doable, all together connected. After enable airtime fairness, it was perfectly working. So we could see an immense improvement just with this one feature. And it's recommended to enable this feature if the channel utilization is around 50%, if you have clients with bad or wrong Wi-Fi signal, which is not good enough, or all standards, then you see the best benefit. But overall, it's good to enable it because we could not find a disadvantage right now. So feel free to activate this feature. How to do that? You can go to Nebula and select the airtime fairness access point based, and then this feature is running on these access points. The supported models for these features are our AX access points because it needs some CPU to work on this feature. So only the a bit higher models could support this also from chipset point of view. But if you want to configure it or use it, then these are the products to enable this feature. Another Wi-Fi feature is security enhancements. So we have reviewed our product line and enhance a few security enhancement here that you now get only a login denied message, for example, without specific reason. So whenever someone try to interrupt your Wi-Fi network, they are now having much less chance to get in because everything is encrypted, or we inform you to force change passwords and so on. Next one is an easy troubleshoot wizard, which is currently available for our small business devices. This troubleshoot wizard will show you when you try to bring a device online from standalone to Nebula, where it may stuck. So is the internet connection the issue? Is the Nebula connection the issue, or the registration itself? And to do that, this tool will always show you the stuck step, include a message what is not working as expected. So in this example, you have an IP conflict with another device in your network. So you can use Zyxel One Network utility, scan the network, check which device is conflicting, and fix this issue. And we have had a lot of error messages into that tool. So whatever fails, like a gateway is not there, ports are blocked, you would be able to see that in the future on the new access points and on older access point at a later time. If you want to add one of the new access point into Nebula, it will also show you a warning message. If you use features related to the warning message, then maybe the SSID will be turned off because not every feature is available or can be configured on the small business access point. So be aware if you want to mix that, sync with our sales team to get the right recommendation for your network. Also, we create our interface more user-friendly. So previously, the SSID settings leads to two different configuration pages. Now we change this and rename it to SSID Advanced Settings. So you always see the right page if you click it. And on Advanced Settings, you can configure, for example, WPA keys. The next feature is calling traffic shaping. So previously, you need to configure one SSID with one VLAN. Now, with the dynamic VLAN feature, you can create one SSID with multiple VLAN. So you save some SSID configuration time, and you also can set some profile. So for example, you could say, my SSID free Wi-Fi have 3 VLAN ID, and these 3 VLAN IDs have a speed of 5 Mbit per client, for example. And at the same time, you can say that another VLAN ID have 20 Mbit, and you can control this kind of VLAN IDs in user profile or after authentication to the Nebula network. So it's quite improve how you can configure your networks using dynamic VLAN in the backend. Another enhancement is the tunnel mode in LAN. Previously, we already have the tunnel mode on NXC controller or firewall, where all the traffic go back to firewall from WAN. Second, we launched the secure Wi-Fi, where a tunnel mode is established from WAN through a secured IPsec tunnel. And now the same is available on the LAN side, that an access point can send and redirect all traffic back to the firewall, not handled by the switch, and go through all firewall UTM modules, inspect by security services, and then go back to the client. Configuration is in the traffic options. So instead of selecting the local bridge mode, you can select the tunnel mode and also add some VLAN ID if you like, and then this traffic goes back to the firewall. Next feature is some optimization for our wireless heels, that we can now select between low to high, how aggressive the optimization should work. So if you have any trouble during the DCS optimization with the clients, then please move it to low. And if you have all fine and you say, I can even optimize more stronger, then you can move it to high. The next big feature we change is smart mesh enhancements. So usually smart mesh is a combination of every access point can theoretically build up a Wi-Fi connection to each access point. That means an access point on location A, for example, may doing a smart mesh with access point number 3, but it makes maybe more sense to do it directly with access point 2. And for this, we have enhanced now our ways for smart mesh, that we can have a downlink option and a manual uplink option. And for downlink, this access point will not accepting any other smart mesh connection. And for manual uplink, we can set a dedicated access point where this access point should do a mesh connection. So we can directly say access point 1 and access point 2, always doing a mesh connection, and no other access point should be contacted for the mesh network. In case of such access points are offline or not available right now, you can enable uplink auto failover, and then the recommend mesh connection is not in use anymore, and the access point will find a backup way. All this information you can see under access point monitor. So it shows you if the mesh is established correctly, or if we change to orange, then there is maybe some issue. And if there's some issue, you can easily go for a mesh uplink reconnect and reconfigure the settings or change back to the automatic mode. For all of our customers using hospitality or hotspot services with Nebula, we make some usability enhancements. So one is that we have changed the ticket, how often a ticket could be logged in with one ticket number. Previously, it was be unlimited or 1. Now we change this to 1 to 10. So if a customer buy a ticket, for example, and he have 5 clients, then you can set up to use 5 clients. We also changed the voucher duration. So previously, only 3 days was possible to print out. Now we change this to 1 year. So you can create hotspot tickets with a period of 1 year valid login time. And you can also set a checkout expiration date now instead of calculating the hours. So if a customer stay 10 days in your hotel, then you just select the checkout date instead of the hours of the 10 days.
Great, Tobias. So these are all the Wi-Fi features in enhancement, quite a lot. So if you want to read them again, I can just recommend you go to academy.zyxel.eu. There on TECHtalk, you'll find the recording of this session as well as the material that we are showing. Before we jump into the next topic, Tobias, Nebula is getting more and more popular. Our customers are moving everything to Nebula. What is that you think, what is the feedback that we are getting, and what do you think is the highest motivation for customers to use Nebula in their environment?
Yeah, the most statement we are here always is Nebula is easy. I can find everything remote. I can manage it by my smartphone app. So they have the control, they can see the networks, they can get push notifications if a new client log in. So you have your network under control. And you can configure it on the same easy styles through all product categories. Yes. And these are the benefits our customers like here.
So you can control, you have more transparency. That's one driver for that. And I think some of our customers had to complain in the past that if they want to change from on-premise mode to cloud mode to Nebula mode, they had to go on site and do the update. But now we have invented something new or further created possibilities. So let's jump into our new features on that.
Yeah, let's have a look at that. So for our firewall series, we know that it's sometimes hard to drive on-site and do some reset and try to bring the device back online. So in our wizard, we are changing it now that we have here some enhancements that in case of the firewall already includes the ZTP certificate for our Nebula connection and the device is online, we would be able to bring this device remote into Nebula. And to do that, we have a compatibility check added into our firewall devices. So it will check the internet line, it will check if the certificate is there, and if everything is set up correctly, then you can switch from on-premise mode to Nebula mode, and the device will be back online in Nebula. It will not convert the configuration, so it will only go online in Nebula, but you can do the Nebula config beforehand, theoretically, and after you convert it, you can fix the outstanding issues in Nebula which may happen. But it's no need to go on-site to press a reset button, whatever, to do this step anymore. Also, the device will warn you that it will back up the on-premise configuration. It will reset the device and doing a reboot. So you have at least a 5-minute reboot offline time. And after that, you can manage the device in Nebula.
And due to the measurements and the implementations before we do the update, we can be sure that the update will work. The internet connection is there, the right configuration. Our firmware has been installed, and then we can go from there. Yes. Very good.
Yeah, another enhancement is for the manual deployment. If you're doing the ZTP or native mode, for example, we are now enhancing the PPPoE with static IP, and also an MTU can be set based on web interface. The same belongs if you are going through the wizard in the device itself, or also if you're doing some testing by the network tools, then these kind of enhancements could be supported now. Also, we add some Active Directory enhancements, and for these ones, we add MS Sharp version 2. So previously, this was only available in on-premise. Now Nebula could also support this for L2TP or EKE version 2 connections. We also add Active Directory improvements in case of Nebula logic. So when you're adding an Active Directory server, Nebula is now giving you a hint that you should also configure DNS server. So this is some nice enhancement that instead of you run into a configuration issue or something is not working afterwards, Nebula try to give you hints that you should now configure also DNS settings, otherwise your entry may not working as expected. And this is some enhancement we not have on-premise firewalls, where you as an admin self should know that Active Directory need correct FQDN information in domain zone forwarder, and Nebula is assisting you in this information cases. And the third enhancement here is that EKE version 2 in Nebula can now your customized Active Directory be selected. So feel free to use it and create your EKE version 2 connection. Another topic is user group policies. So we have networks which could be splitted into two networks, subnet 1, subnet 2. But we also have customers who say, I just want to use one subnet and I want to have my username as identify criteria. This is doable now. So first step would be that you have your user database somewhere. This could be Active Directory, LDAP, or radio server. And the second step is we are adding the group membership attribute. So you are giving the member of attribute, for example, to the user. Then you can select in firewall policies some user groups, which user group is allowed to do traffic, which user group is not allowed. And then the user could log in using captive portal, IPsec VPN client, or even an L2TP IPsec connection. And when the user is validated, then the firewall rule is reacting. That means we can control that some group user can access the server, some users could not access the server based on your setup for the firewall rules.
Great. These are really good improvements, I would say. Makes it even easier to work with Nebula. Before we go now into the mobile routers, so what is the what is the motivation for a customer to add a mobile router to their network?
Yeah. So mobile router usually need if there is no fiber line, for example, available at this location, or they just want to have a second backup line. If fiber line have some trouble, then they can go through the mobile networks. So these are the two common scenarios here.
And I can experience from my side that 4G, 5G is getting more popular. The speed is getting is faster. Yeah. So it's a true possibility as a WAN backup kind of. Right, and now we are moving our mobile router devices even into Nebula. So let's have a look into that, how that looks and what can be done there.
Yeah, so let's start first. What are mobile routers? Yeah, mobile routers are devices having a SIM card in and then can provide internet service through the mobile network. And we differentiate between LTE routers for 4G standard and NR routers for the 5G standard. And usually we are connecting this router with the SIM card to a mobile network, and then we're getting internet, and the mobile router is able to forward this internet signal to the local subnet. And we will release from February onwards these three products into Nebula, which is LTE 3301 Plus as an indoor 4G router, the NR5101 as an indoor 5G router, and the NR7101 as an outdoor router 5G. And let's see how we could support it. So what is neat is that you have the dedicated Nebula hardware version in combination with the Nebula firmware, adding this device to Nebula by MAC address and serial number, and then you would be able to manage this device on Nebula Cloud. If you have already this kind of hardware, which is not a Nebula hardware, then you would not be able to manage this device in Nebula Cloud. So the combination you need is Nebula hardware with Nebula firmware and device adding to Nebula, then you can use it. If you use Nebula hardware, you also be able to switch to the generic firmware to use this device in standalone, but you are not able to switch the generic hardware to a Nebula firmware and use it in Nebula.
So the question is, how can I understand which hardware do I have, which hardware am I going to buy?
Yeah, so this can be recognized by the boxes and article numbers. So our Nebula versions have the Nebula logo on and also have a QR code on to register this device directly within Nebula. So if you have, or if you buy this model with the article number related to Nebula, then you would get the Nebula version and you can add it to Nebula. And also doable to find this out by the user guide or web interface afterwards. If the web interface show Nebula information like the Troubleshoot wizard or Nebula naming, then you have the Nebula version and you can go online in Nebula with the mobile router. So let's see how that works. First of all Nebula Edition routers coming with a 1-year bundle Nebula license professional pack. That means if your organization is already in pro status, it will not downgrade to a base organization. You can continue using it. And also for the deployment, the first way is that you are using the LTE 3301 plus router. This router have 4 ports and 1 Ethernet port can be used as a WAN port. So theoretically, you can have a CPE in a home and as a backup, you are using the 5G. Then you bring this into Nebula. The second option would be you have a firewall within CPE as WAN 1 line, and you're adding maybe an outdoor router for better signal or better performance as a WAN 2 line. These would be 2 common scenarios you can have with Nebula on these devices. How to start here is you need to place this device in near of a balcony, for example, or even outdoor. Insert your provider SIM card, power on this mobile router, and then you can first connect a LAN port to this device or even use the built-in Wi-Fi for configuration. And the Wi-Fi information are on the device at the bottom. So every device have a different password. So please check the label. And then you can log in and start setting up the router first in on-premise mode. That means you are configuring your broadband WAN settings, you are configuring your SIM card, you may entering your SIM card PIN code if you have one. I'll make sure there's no conflict with LTE LAN IP compared to your Nebula subnets, which may already exist, like the LAN IP from the firewall is per default the same. And if you have done this, you can check the signal. Is the position of my device good selected, or need I rearrange the position? We recommend -70 to -120 as signal. So in my screenshot, it's -89, so it's quite well. And if this is done, you can check the wizard, Internet Nebula registration. If all 3 are success, then this device is ready to manage within Nebula. So this device will doing a synchronization to Nebula. It will synchronize the time. It will try to reach the Nebula server, call home by the netconf ports, and then you can start adding serial number and MAC address into Nebula. Important information is only 1 mobile router per site for now. The same limitation belongs to firewall. Only 1 firewall per site is allowed. But in total, you could have 1 firewall and 1 mobile router per Nebula site.
Maybe we could add that we have this Zyxel Air application to find the correct position, at least.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, we have Zyxel Air, we have LTE Ally as two smartphone applications, which could help to find the right place.
Correct.
It takes sometimes a bit of time because the provider networks are not upgrading your signal quick or change your frequency band. So I tested something like this myself at the weekend, and I placed the NR5101 in room near the window, and I have a signal from -110 and a throughput of 30 Mbit, and I place it outside the window, and it changed after 15 minutes from LTE to LTE-A band. So it took time, and the signal was quite similar, -110, but the throughput changed to 120 Mbit.
Wow.
So sometimes changing the location, waiting a bit, try that the SIM card find another frequency could make a big difference.
Yeah, very good.
Good. So to add the device into Nebula, you can scan the QR code by Nebula app, or you're typing in the credentials and adding it into Nebula. After you're doing this, you find the mobile router tab on the left side. You see your mobile router should be online because you already configured the WAN settings. And from here, you can, for example, enable cellular IP pass-through. This feature will help you to forward the WAN IP directly to the device. So if your SIM card supports this, for example, you can use this for VPN backup application. And you see some live tools available. So you can still check from here the signal. You can check the access technology. Is your device working in 4G or 5G standard for now? And some information. You also see the event logs. If something happens, if the SIM card not have a signal, this kind of informations. Two important questions. Can I combine this mobile router with our USG Flex ATP? Yes, this is doable. We can use it as a WAN backup, as WAN 2 backup line, as a load balancer, and also for VPN backup. How this works and how this needs to be configured, you can find already in our knowledge base, support.zyxel.eu. The article with screenshot and step-by-step guides are ready for that.
Wow.
Oh, pardon.
That was quite a lot of information. Thanks, Tobias, for that. So that is the latest release on the Nebula and how to get the mobile router into that. We have a lot of customers doing that already. What is it that they like the most with that installation as a backup, for example?
Yeah, the most is, of course, that they have a backup. Yeah? If you not have a second DSL line, or if your DSL provider is having some trouble, then you still can work. And even for still our pandemic situation and home office, it's important to have backups. And that is the first step here.
Yeah. You mentioned our knowledge base, support Zyxel.eu. For your information there, we always put the latest content and it's available for you. We have a snapshot of that for you available that you can, that we have articles that we have recently modified, added. And Tobias, what is the highlight of this overview, let's say?
Yeah. So the highlight is that we're creating the CES article, Cloud Email Security with Office 365. This was a high requested article that our customers want to know, how can I combine Cloud Email Security with my Office 365 for optimal protection. And some other updates related to the Nebula Easy Troubleshoot wizard. So all messages this Troubleshoot wizard could show, we are showing you in the article. And also the switch section was reworked, that we add a lot of features which are may not that popular yet, like DHCP snooping, what it is, what can it do, how you can integrate such features in your network, and which benefit it have.
Right. And you talked about the 5.2 was listed there already. We will talk about that in the next Tech Talk. Other insights you can give us already for the next Tech Talk?
Yeah, so we will continue our cybersecurity session from Device Insight. We will adding the part how CDR feature could help to automatically block a client after Device Insight detects this client. So yeah, it will continue our first cybersecurity session.
Right, thanks Tobias. So mark the date, 23rd of February. There we are live on stage again. There we will have a bit more lab sessions as mentioned. And if you have any questions after this session as well, please reach out to our support.zyxel.eu, but also make use of our knowledge-based content. We are always trying to push out the information that we have as much as possible. And if you like this tech talk and would like to recap what we have said, you can watch the video again on academy.zyxel.eu, or you can just see the material there. It's uploaded and you can go to the slides that you want to review again. Tobias, have I forgotten anything?
I think that was all for today.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for joining the session, and let's be in touch. Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
We're Zyxel, and we're your networking ally.